Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Larry Thompson, Kendrick Williams. Rogan is still off.
Hello.
And our guest, who was supposed to be the Minister of Culture, Minister Pintard, we just got news that he's still stuck in Freeport, so we're doomed. Let me see if I got a pen in here so I can do some bill paying while I'm on the air. So, yeah. So, what's up? What's going on?
Good. It's Thursday, Friday Eve. I got one little free weekend this weekend, so I hope to make the best of it. I've been working every weekend, so that's nice to have a little day off or two. I'm
thinking, because I'm going to say this loud, right? I'm thinking, how does someone not call you ahead of time?
No, it's inconsiderate. I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's just kind of a thing.
I know people might think that
because you can have a thing, right?
Right.
You can not
but
do
even
it.
if you have all kind of things going on and you just don't think that.
Just like maybe they forgot.
I don't know.
Just leave it there. All right. So
that means they didn't have it on their calendar.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whatever. So what is new in the news?
I'm just reading.
Yeah, let me see that. Let me see that thing.
The headline?
People all know that I'm never prepared.
You mean the point?
Yeah.
Here.
What's the point? That's
what they
say.
We don't need.
Oh,
locals
so one
yet.
of the things. One of the things is this blacklist thing, right? That happened pretty swiftly. It's amazing, right? See, so use this as an example. So obviously, for whatever reason, we got on the blacklist. Now, there's a range of possible reasons. And I don't know if the average guy, and by the way, I want to talk about another thing too while I'm at it. I don't know if the average guy thinks about the blacklist, but it sounds bad.
Right.
Blacklist.
Blacklist.
It's never a white list or a red list or a purple list or an orange list. It's
like
the blacklist. Yeah. So Kendrick, getting ready, boy. So the average. Let me ask you, Kendrick. You're a guy. You're a person, a citizen, whatever. When you hear that we're on a blacklist, how does that impact you?
That's the problem right there. The average guy doesn't know how it impacts him, so they don't think about it.
But they don't know it means.
It's not explained. It's not.
But it's a big, bold, capital, headline.
So they don't know what it really means to them.
Yeah.
Right.
So essentially, then it means nothing to them.
Right.
Now, if they knew what it means, how it would affect them, they would be more concerned.
Yeah.
What does that mean? You can't borrow any more money? We need to borrow no more money. No way.
Well, the thing is.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, no. What it means is, just so you know, and we had Brian Maury on, and he explained about this whole thing. These organizations. The bottom line is this, in a nutshell. The developed countries, the G20, I think that's what they're called, want their tax dollars.
Right.
Okay? They tax you. They have a tax.
Right.
They're taxing you, and we have been known since the 60s, and this is a dirty word now, or a dirty phrase, as a tax haven.
Haven, yeah.
Okay? They want their tax money, and we're known as a tax haven. They've been trying this to cut this out from way back, from the inception. But the thing is with tax regimes and tax environments, the people who control a lot of that are the wealthy folks. Okay, so the people who control legislation, etc., like for instance the Republicans, they want tax havens because they make a lot of money, so they find loopholes to put money in other places, and so they control to the extent that people crunch down. Now, over the last several decades or so, you've had less conservative governments, for instance, in a lot of these countries in Europe and other places. And so they have been cramping down on collecting their tax dollars, okay? In addition, of course, to money laundering dollars. People selling drugs and guns and all that. They find ways to because they can't just show up to the bank. Kendrick can't just show up to the bank in Germany. Here, Kendrick. Okay? Hi, I'm here, Kendrick Wilhelm. Okay? And I got $2 million I want to put in the bank. So they say to here, Kendrick. So where did you get
this?
Where you wait? I don't. I just have it.
Right.
So Kendrick can't go to the bank. Okay. Especially if Kendrick is known to the authorities as a shady character. Okay. Well, we have our eye on here, Wilhelm. We believe he's involved in some illicit stuff.
Activity.
And the funny thing about the illicit stuff and the big guys in the illicit stuff, we know Kendrick is a drug dealer and a prostitution ringleader. We know it. But no one can prove it.
Right.
You see? But we know he's flashing around. He don't wake nowhere. Okay? We see the girls. We know what the deal is. Kendrick have a what do you call it? A network.
Yeah.
He controls some police. He controls some people.
This is
so no
not
one
real
can get...
situations, by the way.
No, because it's not German. Okay? Okay?
Yeah, make believe.
Yeah,
Yes,
make
it's
believe.
all
We're in
make
Germany.
believe.
We talk
Somebody
about Germany. Okay? Here. That's why I use the word here. Okay? And so everyone knows Kendrick is up to no good. Okay?
Right.
So Kendrick just can't walk in the bank and say, listen,
Yeah.
I'm going to write a check. I have this
Not
2
even a
million.
check.
I have this $2 million in
Dump
cash.
some
I want you to
bags on
put
the
that.
table.
I want you to
With a
put that.
duffel bag
in
and some
Right,
cash.
duffel bag.
See, where's the counting room?
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I think we need
Kendrick
to
got
go in
to
the
find a
back.
way. So Kendrick got to find a way to funnel.
That money.
And they don't want that because basically what we're doing, especially, and by the way, the thing that really tipped it off is terrorism. Okay? Because they find that a lot of this money funds terrorism.
Yeah.
So they got to find a way to choke Kendrick's supply off.
Yeah.
Because he's finding a way to set up false companies in different countries, et cetera, and that money is found to blah, blah, blah. So this is where the blacklisting comes in because these countries say, we want to put a stop to this, and you are not doing what is needed to control that.
Right.
And it's easier for them to bully us into taking measures than to actually stop it over there.
So what
You
did
see?
what did we have to do to stay off the blacklist? What did they
Only
do?
God knows. There's a
No?
whole
We
list
don't
of
know.
stuff they got that's probably way over our
Like,
head.
I mean, you said it happened so quickly, so I'm
Well,
just wondering.
to get off? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So they probably had a whole list of things that were required,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe this one was an administrative screw up because you don't usually see it happen that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like there was some administrative snafu,
Yeah.
flub, that caused us to go on the list in the
Question
first
for
place.
you: is the Caymans and Switzerland were they ever on the blacklist?
I know. Like,
I don't know. I don't think Switzerland was ever on the blacklist.
But like you think.
But
some
they are
people,
known
like,
as
can't,
places where you would go if you have
yeah,
cash
but
that
they
you
started to concede their access long ago.
Okay.
They started to give
Open their books.
open their books
Okay.
long ago, right? And that's why a lot of people come to the places like the Cayman and the Turks and Caicos and
Okay.
places far away. So
Leo.
but so we must have obviously done the compliance issues. But the bars, it's next year. Next year, you're going to hear another thing that they need because you know why? Because here Kendrick, he can find another way. He have a submarine now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kendrick, I'm starting to look at you a little differently now.
Yeah, Kendrick. Here Willem have his own submarine fleet. They just go underwater and bring their money to the Bahamas.
Because they will find a way.
Because they have the cash. Not only do they have the cash, which they actually have, they can use the cash to find ways.
right.
Because they can. Listen, let me tell you something. The difference between corruption, the difference between being corrupt
Mm-hmm.
and being honest is circumstance.
I understand.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't want to be in a certain set of circumstances if you want to be continually honest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You have to be, otherwise you have to be very strong. So if someone is making 20 grand a year, okay? And someone comes to them and says, listen, man, I just want you your neck, just turn your neck that way while I move over here. Okay?
Yeah.
And I can give you 50 G's. That's a circumstance you don't want to be in. Okay? Because that's now a decision. And by the way, in some of those cases, and because I told you I'm going to do that, you have to do it because otherwise I have to kill you. Because now you know. You know what I into. Okay? Okay?
Now you know too much.
Now you know too much. But it's just a very, it's a very difficult, it's an experiment. You've seen the experiment where you put a wallet on the ground full of cash. That's a circumstance. You see what I'm saying?
Who would take it?
You're not going, no, I'm just saying you're not going and stealing the wallet from someone's pocket.
No.
But when you find the wallet on the ground
Why wouldn't
full
you
of
take
cash, you pick it up, and the first thing you do,
You look around to see who saw you take it.
okay, and then you have to start making decisions
Yeah.
as to what now do I need to do because I'm broke
Right.
and I see 5 G's in there.
5.
5 G's.
And there's no identification.
Well, there's maybe identification.
Oh,
They'll
okay.
put that. That's the experiment. They put the identification.
Oh, okay.
Go and give the money
Yes,
to Candy
yes.
at her house on this
give
road.
my money back, please. Thank
Okay,
you.
that's the identification. Okay, but they look around, and that's why you often find scenarios where they'll turn in the wallet, but it's no cash. It's no cash. The cash.
And it's so
Someone
funny
else.
'cause people-
Someone must have found it before me.
Right. I don't know. And they just toss the rest away. It's not
And
very
they-
useful.
I find it in the garbage because I go in garbage a lot.
But it's so funny when something like that happens. I'm just so thankful that all of my other stuff is in the wallet. I don't care about the money at that point because I don't feel like going and getting all this stuff over. You know, like your
I've lost
your
my wallet
driver's
twice,
license, your NIB card.
and both times
Take the cash. I don't
I've
care.
gotten the wallet back completely intact.
But if you are
One
nice,
in Holland and one here.
yeah, if you're nice, just leave the cash, okay?
Leave the cash?
Leave the cash. If you see the
No, they don't. No, sorry,
if you
sorry.
see the wallet,
No, they're
you
not
know,
interested. You should be happy they leave the credit cards
No,
and
that's
stuff.
what I'm saying. People are just generally happy that they have left all of your driver's license, your credit cards,
Right,
your
right, right,
NIB,
right,
or even
right.
if your passport in
Right,
there, like
right.
because you don't have to read
Because your
go
life
and redo
savings
that.
and your life isn't generally in the wallet.
No.
Because if you're foolish enough, well, I have $100,000 in my life savings and I carry that around with me.
You know,
Okay.
yes, $150, $300.
You'll
I don't
make
know.
a comeback.
That's,
You can make a
for
comeback.
some people, that sets you back a little
Yeah,
bit.
but you
know?
can make a comeback from the
Yes.
150.
But not from the 100
Not from the life
grand.
savings of $100,000 that I keep in my
Because
wallet.
I keep it and I travel with it just for safekeeping.
Because I don't trust these bikes. We'll be right back.
How about your PIN number in your
The
wallet?
PIN number. Yes, it's going to be Candy and I today because our guest wasn't able to make it, along with Kendrick. He will interject as well, which is a
He's
rare
got the
treat.
mic in front of him, so
It's a rare treat for folks.
yeah.
So we were talking about the blacklist, so we look like we're off of that. Another thing I wanted to talk about is our flavor of the day type stuff, right? So you remember we had this thing with the Chief Justice where I don't think anyone cared that this is the kind of thing. No one really cared that there was not a substantive Chief Justice in place because there's an acting Chief Justice. But when someone from the same party said we need to get a Chief Justice, that became a big thing.
Mm.
The question is, and this is the underlying question, and you can call me whatever you want, it doesn't matter. What is the problem with having the acting Chief Justice? There's a law, I think, in the place that says you can only have the acting Chief Justice for 12 months.
I
Now,
was going to say, for how long?
right.
though?
Now, I kind of recollect, you might be too young for this, and I don't know if Kendrick recollects it. We used to have a lot of foreign Chief Justices. And in the interim of getting a foreign Chief Justice in,
You
we would
have
have
the
acting
acting.
Chief Justice.
Right.
I'm sure I recall this. So the point is, what's the big deal? What is the big deal? Now, I'll tell you there are two issues. One is, if you're getting targeted on this type of stuff, if you're going to be accused of some, misdeed, then you've got to be able to respond. We
Yeah.
got to, we'll talk to Ace,
Yeah.
you've got to be able to respond to deal with these things because otherwise they just take a life of their own,
Right.
So that's the thing. I just wonder why it is that we seem to gravitate.
You think it's a lot of nitpicking, though, now? It's
I just
like,
think it's just the nature of the beast. It's not you take it for what it is. You take it for what it is. But here's the deal.
making something big out of nothing at all. I'm saying, like, we're getting to the point where, maybe people are saying, okay, well, this government isn't doing what they want them to be doing, and so just everything that they do is a misstep, or everything, they're just nitpicking every
I'll give you
single
an
thing
example.
that they're doing.
I'll give you an example which has nothing to do with this government, so that people can't say that I'm apologetic. This is a great example. Carnival.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I don't know if I've ever had this discussion on the air because I've stayed away from it because it was too emotive and I just really didn't have the patience to deal with it. But as you know, I was on the Carnival Commission.
Yes.
And in fact, I'm not saying this to be braggadocious or anything, but I was intricately involved with the production of Carnival.
I remember.
Okay, it almost drove me near the edge.
You drove me to the edge.
Well, you drive me near the edge every day. But you know how deep I was into that. Okay?
Yes, you were very much involved.
We were involved. People like Noel Nichols and Freddie Munnings and I, we were involved in the branding. I remember sitting in my office and coming up with Road Fever and Midnight Rush and Music Masters
very much
and all those things. Junkamania, the detail. We were into it
big time.
Now, here's the deal. It was determined, and I'm going to see how Kendrick reacts to this because I've never told this story on the air. Okay?
Exclusive.
It was determined that there are many carnivals. Well, first of all, it was determined we wanted to have a carnival to be another source of bringing people in. That's the number one objective, of bringing people to the country. Okay? Which, by the way, that objective was never realized. So keep that in mind. And so when you're doing something, you have to have a gimmick. You know, if you have a remote or a party somewhere and you want people to come, you have a gimmick. I had a party on the fort. You know what my gimmick was? It's 4:30 in the morning. That was my gimmick. Okay? You have a gimmick to get people to come because otherwise you're not differentiated from anything else. So the Bahamas had an interesting thing in that the Caribbean, they don't care. They don't have the xenophobic thing. They're one. Okay? And their artists are going back and forth between each thing and they don't care. But we're very, touchy.
Yeah.
But the reality is we have a unique product. We got macaroni and cheese, we got peas and rice, we got corn salad. They ain't got that. We got John Canoe, they ain't got that. So, but the problem is people know about their jerk chicken. People know about their roti. People know about their soca. People know about their reggae. They don't know about our stuff.
Right.
So if you just go and say, we're going to have a carnival, and let me be very direct, because I don't, I'm past the stage of caring now. We're going to have KB. He's the headliner. Well, let me be frank, and he's my friend. If you have a KB concert today, how many Bahamians show up to that? Because, we know him. We've seen the concert. He's a great artist, but we've seen it. But certainly people from the outside don't even know who that is.
Right. So it's not a draw.
It's not a draw. There you go. You pick up on the word. It's not a draw, unfortunately. So it was decided as a strategy that in the first 2 to 3 years of Bahamas Carnival, we would have a big name act for one purpose and one purpose only.
To draw people to the Bahamas.
And when they came, they would then see
what we have to offer, our culture,
okay.
Our
now,
artists,
does this sound like a logical strategy to you? Okay, you want people to come, you have a draw. Maybe we could have said, we'll be giving out gold.
Right.
Okay, I mean, it's the same. You still got to buy the gold.
Yeah.
Okay, but the reality is we said we wanted to have a draw so that people could come here. And by the way, in the first, Freddie Munnings was my partner in crime in this. Okay? I mean, we became extremely close. And Freddie Munnings Jr. has one mission in life, and that is to see Bahamian music grow and develop and become a world known.
Katie sent that. Sorry.
No. So the reality is we don't have the technology for it. That's what you can know. It's not we don't want to do it. So the reality is, okay, that if we are going to bring people here, we have to give them something what they're familiar with and that they want to see. You could have said, I'm going to have, the Mickey Mouse Club, but no one's going to come. You not only do you have to have a draw, you have to have the right draw to get the right type of person. You don't just throw out a name. We're going to have Elvis. Well, they would come for that. That would be a big one. But you know what I'm saying, Kendrick? You in the business of music, you have the right draw to draw the crowd. So the first name we had, I'm going to tell the full story now.
Oh.
This is undercover deep stuff. This inside. You should have had some drama music. Dun, 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 dun. So the first act we looked, and by the way, the strategy was presented to Cabinet, and Cabinet approved the strategy and the budget. Let me say that now on the record. It doesn't matter. There's no ramification here. The Cabinet approved the strategy, and the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, you wouldn't think that because you'd think they just found out about that the way that it played out in the paper. Okay? But this is now irrefutable proof, irrefutable facts I'm giving you, and I challenge anyone to try to say it's not accurate. So we went about the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing on the strategy was to find that one act. Okay? So after many moving around and all that kind of stuff, we found Usher. Okay? We found Usher. We entered into an agreement. There's a thing called a deal memo, where once you sign that deal memo with the producer or the management company, you're essentially obligated to pay that deposit. And you have X amount of days to pay that deposit because they have to book that guy so he doesn't lose any other bookings.
Right.
First of all, we asked permission from the authorities, from the Minister of Culture, the various parties. Can we go ahead and sign this? Yes, we signed it. Time for deposit. No deposit. Can't get the deposit from the government. There's a company called William Morris. Are you familiar with the William Morris Agency?
No.
It's the world's biggest management company of talent.
Of what?
Okay.
Oh,
Of talent.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Look it up. Biggest.
Mm-hmm.
We had people like Sony and Live Nation, all sorts of things working on this project with us. No deposit. We were dirt to them.
Yeah.
Dirt. And on top of that, we don't have an act. It's now November, late November. Okay? Carnival is May. This is really an exclusive, you know. You're getting the full inside story. Documented. I got it. So we're all struggling along. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Our producer at the time, Max Monroe, he was all upset, but he managed to talk to the William Morris people. And on December 18th, I want to say sometime around that, I got a call from Max, and he said to me, listen, all is forgiven. Here's the deal. Janet Jackson. That's just the response. Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay? So I said, what? They said, yeah, they're going to get Janet Jackson. They want to know one thing. Are you people serious? This is her first concert in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
In 5 years, because she had gone to Dubai or wherever to marry that guy. Okay,
Yeah.
and since her brother had died. First concert. First thing I did, because they called me. I picked up the phone, and I called my chairman. And I said, listen, we've lost Usher, but if we're going to go along the same strategy, we have Janet Jackson. Because everything, once you have that headliner, that's it. You now, boom, you ticket sales. Okay? So he said, oh, man, fantastic. I called all the other commissioners. Go for it. I drove down to the office of the Prime Minister. This is exclusive stuff. This has never been heard. This is the story.
I hope y'all
Because
listening.
no one else was involved with it other than myself
you should
and
see
these
me
people.
and Kendrick like.
Okay? I drive down to the office of the Prime Minister. I'll never forget because at the office of the Prime Minister was Mr. Ian Poitier. He was down there waiting to see the PM as well. So I went in. Mrs. Morley was down there. And I finally got him to say, and I showed him the deal memo. I said, Mr. Prime Minister, this is the deal memo for Janet Jackson. He said, what? I said, yeah, man, this is it.
Jackson,
And he says, does the commissioners agree? I said, they're all unanimous. They want Janet Jackson. This is the thing. We'll be overwhelmed with visitors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He says, talk to the Minister of Tourism. I get home. I call the Minister of Tourism. We're classmates. This is the kind of thing that doesn't happen in the Bahamas, where the story is told because people are afraid of who they're affecting or whatever. But I'm going to tell the story. That's because Pintard didn't show up today, so I could tell the story.
See there?
You see how things work out?
There you go.
So I called the Minister of Tourism. I said, Obi, listen, man. We got Janet Jackson. His response was just like his, what? I said, we got Janet Jackson. the PM says to me, I just got to make sure, run this by you. You got to do it, man. We got to do it. I said, okay, but I just want you to know, once you tell me to do this,
We got to act.
we have to live up to our commitment, and we have to do X, Y, and Z. Okay? And it's $1 million. Okay? All right. I hang up the phone. I'm about to call the producer to tell him we have to do it. I get a call back from Obi. He said, listen, man, you sure you don't mean Janet Johnson?
Janet Johnson.
You know, that's another friend of ours who I went to school with. I said, don't, and I even got to use the word, okay? So don't mess with me, man. Janet Jackson. He says, man, bucket, man, go with it. Let's do it. So I called the producer. Boom. I said, I've gotten approval from the commissioners, from the Prime Minister, and the Minister of Tourism. Book it. From that day, and I'm not going to get into the intricacies, and I wish Freddie could be listening to this, and I wish Freddie was here, because I really should have him here to divulge this, because he and I lived this, and he would back me up on every single piece of this. From that day, we had, I think, I don't know, 20 days or something like that to pay the deposit. From that day to the deadline, we could not get a commitment to pay this deposit. This is when all the stuff hits the fan about Janet Jackson has paid $1 million and this and that and all that. And then all of a sudden, everyone have a memory loss. Everyone has a memory loss. But I have emails. But they have a memory loss. But I don't know how the commission could be, you know. It's a cabinet-approved strategy, a cabinet-approved budget for the purposes of making Carnival successful. For the period, so that in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 20th year, we're not talking about Janet Jackson anymore or Usher. We're talking about Bahamas Carnival. And some of our musicians are on the world stage because of the exposure. But the strategy was interfered with in because, and let me divulge another thing, and he'll tell you, he told me this, because of egos. Now, the irony is, okay, and I know people are listening, and if they don't believe a word I say, put me on a lie detector. And put anyone else who says that it's not right, put them on a lie detector. So anyway, all of a sudden, Mr. KB, Kirkland Bodie pops up, and this is a travesty, and this and that, and all that kind of stuff. And all we're trying to say is, look, man, you know, you get to go and travel to other places in the planet to perform, right? Other people can come here to perform. It's not an either or, but the reality is she is A-list and demands that price, and you're not. See? Get over it. See, I said it. You're not.
No.
We'll be back. By the way, let's not lose sight of why I'm telling this story. We talked about how people get caught up in what's printed or what's put in the media, right?
Or just as opposed to floating around,
right? As opposed to what are the facts?
Mm-hmm.
What is the true story?
And we like to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We like
and the reality is
stuff.
What happened. The narrative about Carnival back in what was that? 2015.
Mm-hmm.
The narrative of Carnival was the government wasting money. Okay. That this is just a party for lackeys and cronies and, blah, blah, blah. And that there was the commission had run amok. The politicians were the good guys trying to rein these people in.
Mm-hmm.
But that was not the story. The story was the commission, which was selected by the government of the day, submitted a very in-depth plan, proposal, budget, and strategy, which I was in the room, presented to Cabinet, down to the last dollar, down to every location, everything. In fact, I'll never forget, originally the concert was going to be looked at as putting it on Haynes Oval, which obviously would have been too small, and to use Fort Charlotte for parking. And I'll never forget, and I won't say who it was, it's not necessary. So they said, I and use Fort Charlotte for parking, Clifford Park. That's sacrilege.
Oh.
That's what they say because it's because of the independence.
And
I say to myself, and I say to them, I even to this day, look at how y'all keep Clifford Park on a daily basis, and you can tell me about that sacrilege.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Didn't they just what did they just do the other day on? All right,
Carnival,
the carnival,
yeah.
like the actual
Ferris wheel on the
right.
Anyway, so you can have a
heard
Ferris
about
wheel,
right? But you
and have a car. Anyway, having said all of that, and I remember immediately saying, okay, we won't do that because I didn't want to have any
back and forth.
Just okay, we'll find another way to deal with it. That's why we ended up with those two lots.
Right.
The one by the Bank of the Bahamas lot and the one by Chippingham. So when we got to where we had 14 days or some days to pay this deposit for Janet Jackson. Now, in the meantime, Janet Jackson's people had been in touch with us. Bahama was supposed to have been open in time for this.
That didn't happen.
And they were going to have enough room, enough people to, for both these hotels to facilitate. But in the meantime, they had booked the Atlantis Theater for 2 weeks because they were going to rehearse the routine there.
Right.
They had booked rooms at the Ocean Club. They had booked some suites at the Ocean Club, the villas. They were in the process of booking. They were booking suites at Atlantis. They were looking at what they could do because both Robert Sandy Satz and I were in the commission of rooms they could have at Bahama, et cetera, et cetera. D-Day comes, man. Every day was under pressure. I'll never forget we had a meeting one Sunday night before the Prime Minister and a group of people went to China. I know that there are people who are listening to this who are freaking out that I'm divulging this stuff. And I don't care. We had a meeting on the Sunday night before the Prime Minister and his entourage or his whatever you call it was supposed to go to China. And they asked me the question, well, why are you all paying all that money for her? Because I don't even want to get into the fact that other people were also playing into this because everyone wanted a piece of this $10 million, man. Okay, they wanted control. Government departments, different government departments, they wanted control. They didn't want this commission. No, I got, control, man. Mm-hmm. So everyone was interfering, and someone slipped something into the minister's head that they paying too much. They paying too much for her. Now, the reality is when you book an act, you have two ways of booking an act. You either have a guarantee or you have a door deal. Okay? And a door deal is based on the fact that you have an arena, you know how many seats in the arena, you know you're going to sell out. Yeah. So the person might say, you know what, give me 200 or 300,000, I get 80% of the door. But we ain't got no arena. Okay? We have Fort Charlotte.
Right.
We don't know how much people could fit there. We don't know how much people gain.
Right.
We don't know what the ticket price could be. You got politics involved, so at least 20% going in for free. So they just say, I want my guarantee.
Set price.
This is the price, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
And so the price of production was about $1 million. That's the staging and all of that stuff.
That's
and then the price but that's it.
No,
that's
I
the
know.
way it is.
No, I'm not.
And the price, and on top of that, we got to bring it in.
Right.
And the price of the act was $1 million. Okay. So it's $2 million. Now, everyone freaks out. Now, granted, let me tell you, if you go to the budget that was presented to Cabinet, in the Cabinet budget, it says, this is the budget for the act, $2 million. $1 million for production, $1 million for act. Not a surprise. Approved. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, up jumps my good friend, Mr. Kirkland Bodie, and all hell breaks loose because you know why? Politicians are generally weak-kneed. And they don't care about the fact that 1,000 people might be for them, but if you get one or two loud people, that ain't good. Okay? Now I'm going to jump ahead. So later on, as you recall, they devised some concert to appease the local artists that were complaining. And there weren't a lot because almost every local artist was billed during Carnival. Okay? So I called, and so once they did this, and the individual, Mr. Bodie, decided that he would go on, maybe perform for Carnival and certainly do this concert, which I don't know how many people showed up to. He started going on talk shows. These people ain't gonna talk to me no more, but I'm 60 now. It don't matter.
You and this 60.
Yeah. So I called my friend up and I said, look, man, do yourself. I've been in the PR business for a little while. Do yourself a favor. Stop going on the shows. I said, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. I said, people either go in what you're saying or they're not going, but they've already made up their mind. I said, but just do yourself a favor. Don't do that. That was the first time I had spoken to him during this whole process. So I said, now you notice I have not said anything, publicly about you now. I ain't say nothing. He my boy. I kept quiet.
Mm-hmm.
He said, yeah, man, but I hear you've been saying some things. I hear some rumors. I said, no, they're not rumors. I said them. I just hadn't said them publicly. I said, you're being, obstinate and you're being selfish and you don't get the big picture. Man, Ed, man. You know what it is? Man, ego, man. Y'all hate my feelings, man. I should have been on that commission. Now, once again, put me on the lie detector test. Put him on the lie detector test. Because I'm ready. Strap me down. Okay? Man, y'all should have included me on that commission and all that kind of, blah, blah, blah. That's what it came down to. Okay? So later on, when we were engaging him to perform, there were 4 conditions that he had when we performed. 1, X amount of money, which was already knocked everything off because the money was unrealistic. 2, that these people also had to perform, and this was the rate that they had to get because he's now pseudo-commissioned. So, boom. So that's number 2 off because they weren't going to get that. 3, he had to be, in the next carnival, he had to be the music consultant, whatever on the commission. Boom. And 4, if any foreign act appeared during the commission, he would not perform. During the carnival, he would not perform. Boom. End of that. No more contract. Because none of them could meet the thing. None of them, okay? So that's that side of the thing. I'm sure no one's ever heard of that, but I'm sure there's tons of people who can validate that for me, and I'm sure there's tons of paper floating around with those terms and conditions. Okay? So we forge ahead, and then what ends up happening is we ended up essentially kind of ad hocing. We had Marshall Montano, great performance. Did you go to the thing?
Not the first year. I did.
It was a great performance.
I heard about it.
It was a great night.
It was.
In fact, the Prime Minister and I.
A lot of people showed up.
The Prime Minister and I, let me tell you how committed I was to this. The Prime Minister and I had a running joke going on, the Prime Minister at the time. The Wednesday before the carnival, that week it rained heavily, if you recall, and the grounds got really muddy.
Mm-hmm.
And the Prime Minister and the Minister of Tourism came on a Wednesday to Clifford Park to check it out, and the car drove backstage, and it got stuck in the mud. Okay, and the reporters were there and all that. And I made sure that they couldn't take that picture. Because I could see what that headline was going to be.
Yeah.
Carnival, stuck in the mud. That's what they like. I could write that up and send that to them. I knew. So I shielded him, and I make sure that didn't happen. And then we walked about the grounds. They had to get out the car. The car couldn't move. They had to get out the car. And we walked around the grounds, and PM said to me, this ain't going to work. This isn't going to work. I said, what do you mean? He says, this isn't going to work. This stage set up in the wrong place. It needs to be at one end of the field, like the rallies. I said, listen, Mr. PM, in all due respect, first of all, we can't move it now. And secondly, would you rather be in the one end of the field and looking to the middle, or at one end of the field and looking to the other end?
Right.
It's anyway. He said, this ain't going to work. I said, all right, let's take a bet. So we had a thing, and on the Friday night, that's when the concert was. My booth was right next to where he was, right? And every now and again, as the crowd began to fill in, and by the way, we had to put gravel over the field, if you recall. We had P-Rock. We had to P-Rock the field. You had to P-rock the field so people wouldn't, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to walk in the place, right? So he came next to me and said, I say, how it looking? I ain't sure yet. And we did that for about a half hour. It was a running joke. He's a friend. I consider the former prime minister a friend. And as you know, he came here twice, if you recall. And I don't know, sometime in the show, I walk past him. I say, how'd it look? And he says, all right, I inquest. I give up. You win. But it was a good show. But the point is that that politics, and then, of course, once the politics took over, destroyed an opportunity for this country that we still are not realizing from Carnival. Because why? What was the objective? There were two. One, to get visitors here, and two, to expand our music so that it could be exposed to the world. And because we didn't follow the strategy, we didn't have time to market it, we didn't have time to get tickets there, nothing. And as a result, those objectives weren't met.
I don't think I recovered from the whole name change.
And by the way, when we come back, I'll tell you about that real quick. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here as we roll up into Carnival time.
Yeah.
We talk a little history. Freddie.
Hey.
Hey, man. What's going on? What's going on, man?
Are you on air now?
We are on air, as
so
are you.
You.
So don't case and do them kind of things you do. Now, before you say anything, Freddie Munnings Jr.,
yes,
I want you, because you know you haven't been released.
That is true.
Okay. I want you to tell the listening public what happened during and after the very first meeting of the Carnival Commission.
Well, the first thing that happened, of course, you and I had a very serious history when you were doing another regular show in the morning, and I think we had mutual respect for each other, but we always buck heads. I mean, we will have serious debates. I wouldn't call them arguments, but they were very close on various issues. I guess mainly because of our personalities and mainly because of our passion for what we're dealing with. But I think at the end of the day, there was mutual respect.
Mm-hmm.
But after the very first meeting with the former Prime Minister, on the way down, you pulled me aside. You say, Freddie, listen, man. I think if we're going to make this thing happen, you and I have to form a pact. And I listened to you for a while. I said, where my boy coming from now? But at the end of the day, we agreed. And from then to now, I'm still on the leash. You haven't released me yet. But I think our friendship grew. I think that's one of the best things that came out of that relationship. You and I became good friends.
Right.
At least from my side, I believe that's mutual.
No, he said that. He's actually
but
expressed that.
I thought we did a great work. I am very disappointed, to say the least, that after all the work we did, and you and I were together on the commission until 2016. And last year we were not on the commission, but we were still indirectly involved to some degree where we worked with it. But the first 2 years, and I say the first year, that first show was truly something historic in this country. Because I don't know if many people understood really what we were trying to do. It was more than just a quote-unquote Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival. It was a restoration, or the beginning of the restoration of the entertainment industry in our country. I heard a little bit about your overview with respect to the Janet Jackson episode, which was a disaster. And not only Janet Jackson, Usher as well. But the reason we ended up with that incredible stage is because that stage was suited for the rider for Janet Jackson.
Correct.
And at the end of the day, we were so deep in, we could not get out of it. So we said, you know what? Let us put our people on that world-class stage. And that's, in fact, what we did.
Mm-hmm. Well, Freddie, I can say this to you. I don't know if we've ever said this publicly together or apart. But so what happened was when the government did not live up to its commitment as indicated to us to essentially book Janet Jackson.
Right.
When we got the response from the minister that they would not be supporting this, after having told us that they would be that essentially go ahead and commit to it,
More than telling us, they made a call directly to the booking agent and told them and made a commitment internationally to them.
Exactly. And so the William Morris Agency, and I want the Bahamian people to hear this now, wrote to our producer after getting a note back from the minister that we would not be doing this. One of the most senior people in the William Morris Agency said, it was much harsher language, but it was in bold caps. The government of the Bahamas should never call us again.
In essence, and in other words, exactly those words.
Okay. And it is at that point where I had to say, because I had put, this is how I felt, I had put my reputation, as minute as it might have been in the grand scheme of things, on the line, saying that I have secured the commitment from the government of the Bahamas. I had no choice but to immediately resign.
Absolutely.
Okay? To immediately resign. I didn't give any long reason because I knew it would get out in the media and all that kind of thing. So I just said, subject to some developments, I resign immediately. The next thing that happened was Freddie Munnings Jr. immediately resigned.
Yeah, because we were all involved, even though I did not sign on the dotted line or commit as you had done, but you were committing on behalf of the commission and the country based on the support of the government at the time. And not only our word, the then minister, had called the agent and spoke with him directly from China.
See, to China.
These are the facts. We're not making this stuff up.
No.
and so all of our credibility was on the line. Huh?
What's that? No, you're right. Every one of our reputations was on the line. But
our reputation was on the line. And forgive me, I did not reach you and say hello to your wonderful hostess.
Yes.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Player.
That was a very sweet. I don't think we had any choice.
Right.
And through your intervention and speaking directly with the Prime Minister for the credibility of the Commission and our commitment to what we were doing, because it was purely a commitment. We were not paid, not a red dime, at least for the first year. Mm-hmm. The second year, we got a little stipend in terms of some kind of consultancy fees. But for the first year, it was purely a national service.
Right. Not a dime.
After the Prime Minister interceded, you then agreed to go back, and then you said you wouldn't come back unless I came back, and I came back so we could continue to the work that we had started.
And we worked very hard on getting, and I'll never forget. Let me tell you, Candy, it's so funny, but it's fun. You know, it's all about an experience, right? We went to that. We did the what do you call it? What was it? The Music Masters. Okay, and that ended around about 4:00. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went home, we went to bed, and the next day was the road fever.
Yes.
I get up around.
Before you go on, Ed, let me just reiterate this. Based on your insistence, my insistence, every night that we had an event, we had a Junkanoo rush out.
That's correct. Every night.
Uh-huh.
Because we want to involve all facets of Bahamian, and the whole idea was, imagine, I want people to just take this into perspective. Imagine if the visitor, this was the goal, if the visitors who we wanted to be here were here, and they saw that range of Bahamian talent and culture.
Right. Even if they didn't attend every night, I mean, it's just...
The first year, we had represented just about every genre of... We had a group from South America. We had a Cuban group. We had a Haitian group. We had Bahamians. We had the West Indians. And, of course, we had all represented. We had the Junkamania people. We created a whole thing called Junkamania to make sure we preserved the Junkanoo orchestral sound. We also had the youth fair, if you remember, which was extremely successful.
Right.
And we also insisted that authentic Bahamian materials be used on all the costumes.
Mm-hmm.
I want y'all. I actually want you guys to talk about the whole the change of the name and how that happened, because it originally was the Bahamas Carnival.
Better than me.
What's that?
What was I said I believe Ed could know that better than me because he went on the stage with the then hierarchy, but we learned it as the former prime minister was walking up to the stage.
Because I think that is.
Yeah. So what happens is you see.
That killed it for me.
See, let me tell you about leadership. And this is where this has nothing to do with me. This is just universal. If you have an idea and you want to see it through, and let me use the two words Saul Kersner. Okay? If you have a vision and you want to see that vision come to fruition, everyone else, their input is welcome, but it's not the final word.
Right.
And you just carry on. You go forward, and if it doesn't jive with your vision, it doesn't enhance your vision, you move forward. Okay? But politicians don't operate that way. One person can sway them. And in this instance, one is, and I know who it is. Okay? And he knows I know who it is. And they still ended up not supporting the effort. So we're at the Pompey Square. We had everything. It was a wonderful launch.
Right.
Okay, I don't know if you were there at all.
Not to the launch. I remember preparing for it.
Right.
Though.
We had every element of it. We had the Junkamania element. We had the Music Masters element because we had our boy Bunks. Remember? Junkanu Bunks. Yes, and what's his name? Julian Believe and other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a mimicked road march. We got a truck that went from where Luca Carey is now, all the way around to
Scotia.
No, it didn't go that far. It just came up to by the Navy Line Road, by Cafe Kalik, right? And Concord Kalik. And so we're putting up the banner. We put up the banner above the gazebo saying Bahamas Carnival.
Wow.
Bahamas Carnival.
At the launch.
The banner is up. It's up there saying Bahamas Carnival. I'm sitting there, the minister and the prime minister on the stage, and they saying, yes, and we decided we are changing the name to Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival. That's what happened. That's what happened. Now again, give me the lie detector test. Because, I want to make sure, give me the lie detector test. I want me sit next to the lie detector who accuses me of lying. Let's sit next to each other. At the moment of the launch, it says, and we decided we're changing it to Bahamas Junkanoo Carnival. Boom.
I can't tell you the deflation for me, when next day.
Imagine us. We had to change all of our
signage and everything.
No consultation or anything.
It takes away.
Everything had to change. And this is the level, and we're only saying this story because it shows the level of disaster you could have because of interference and you don't carry a plan out. You got to have balls. You have a vision. You want it to happen. You got to have the balls to see the vision through. Because guess what? If you don't carry it through and you fail, you still have in the same boat that if you carry it through and fail. But chances are, if you don't carry out the vision as you believe it, as you have the passion for it, you will fail. If you carry out the vision, you have a good chance that you will succeed.
And Ed, despite all of the frustration and all of the interference, as you put it so very correctly, from all kinds of powers that be, as a matter of fact, there was serious confusion among the hierarchy of the powers that be with respect to the direction we wanted to go. Because I remember vividly when we made a presentation at the cabinet office, we didn't get the kind of support that I was hoping that we would have gotten from a particular minister. But the point that I want to make is this: despite all of that, I felt that we made a serious effort to move in the right direction to rejuvenate the music industry. Now, why am I saying that? Number one, the first year, we generated over 150 songs for the first song competition. Of that 150 songs, we recorded 25 songs. Beautifully recorded, beautifully packaged. Out of that, we had 10 finalists, and out of that, we had a winner who who ended up with a contract from Sony Entertainment. But that accomplishment alone, if we had done it properly, would have worth millions of dollars to the music industry of our country.
And I can tell you, Freddie, and I say this without any fear of contradiction, had the world come, and we did have visitors, I'm not saying we didn't have any, but nothing to make an impact. But had the world come to that venue that night, they would have been treated to a performance and a night that is world class. It's as simple as that. There was not a single person out there who couldn't say they were not proud to be on that fort that night.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was world class.
And you know what we did for extra measure? Unlike what you see when they raise the flag at Independence. Okay?
That was the moment.
I had a flag, you know what, Perkins in the States, you know that big flag?
Mm-hmm.
I had one of them. And that was blowing in the middle of all of that.
But you know, if we were allowed to do our job and Janet Jackson had been our headliner, the world would have come. You've already told the story.
Mm-hmm.
The world would have come because that would have been the first time that she would have performed since her brother had died, number one. And that tour that she did subsequent to our opening was her most successful tour in the history of her career up to that point.
So so those are the facts, folks. And, you know, I don't want to hear from, well, let me rephrase that. You know, we can hear from all the naysayers and all the things. These are the facts. Egos, political agendas, probably some cronyism, a lot of cronyism, political wrangling for control, and they all know who the players are. Say again, Fred. Go ahead.
I want to end with this, Ed, because I think you have definitely set the record straight. I want to end with this, despite all that have been said, and I believe you would agree with this. The Right Honorable former Prime Minister of our country truly was committed to this effort. And he committed the money. Unfortunately, as you said, we had the political interference that caused a lot of frustration in the very early stages. But despite all of that, I believe we had a Herculean effort to rejuvenate the industry, and it wasn't just about Carnival. It was about the Bahamian music industry, and we were focusing on Junkamania. We were focusing on the music. We were focusing on the whole spirit. I mean, look at the vendors who were involved.
But listen, Freddie, look at the songs that we're still hearing today from people like Lady E and all that. Those are because of that scenario. Sketch,
and those songs still have marketability. Look at the frustration that we had with marketing. I mean, it was like 2 weeks before the event that we even had we didn't have any markets. We didn't have any information out in the market.
No market, because we're too busy wrangling on this and that. So we had literally zero marketing abroad. Zero.
And I'm saying it was just pure tenacity. It was pure guts and commitment. I mean, I vividly remember you stacking packages of Judge's package 4 o'clock in the morning, and me like a fool with you trying to pack these things to get them out for the next day. That was the commitment. But I'm saying, despite all of that, I am disappointed, Ed, that this year that we have allowed that concept to be fizzled out. I applaud those private investors who decided to go their direction, and that's their right because they're spending their money.
Correct.
But at least the government of the day should have seen the wisdom to at least create a platform for the artists and some of those same artists that you have named and have them involved with the process.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is a big disappointment. I believe we still have a lot of life in the music that we have produced. Those young artists deserve an opportunity, but I don't think it's over until the fat lady sings and she's just warming up. So I hope that we at some point could salvage some of it, because I think we have laid the groundwork for us to really rejuvenate. As a matter of fact, you and I have had numerous conversations after in the last several months as to how we could use some of those artists. And hopefully we will continue on that plane.
All right, Freddie. Well, listen, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All the best, my brother, and continue the good work, and I'll continue to listen. But the bottom line is the music industry of the Bahamas need a shot in the arm and we're going to continue to do what we can to give it that shot.
All right, man. We got to run.
All the best,
Thank
man.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here, along with Candelaria Thompson. How are you? Cheers.
Oh, yes.
We're cheersing our water.
Cheers. Yes.
Yes.
Aqua Pure. Oh, sorry. Am I supposed to say what we are
Yeah,
drinking?
it doesn't matter. Yes, Aqua.
I'm just
So,
saying,
listen.
unless you had a different water sponsor. I
We
don't know.
we had that little. This is what happens when you don't have a guest on. We tell a story, but I think was it interesting to you?
It was very interesting.
I mean, I hope it was. I
Go
don't
into
know if
storytelling.
people are calling and saying get that crap off the air, but anyway, I think it puts things in perspective. And think about this, and I'll just say this: think about how many things happen that you don't know the true story. And I can tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't stuff I heard.
This is what you have.
This is what I
firsthand
lived.
Lived, right?
Okay. Anyway, speaking of living.
Well, that was good.
Let's talk about the Starbucks episode in Philadelphia, the city
Yeah,
of
Kendrick was
the
kind of
city
filling
of
me
brotherly
in.
love.
I didn't know the original story. I just knew that people were trying to boycott Starbucks on Monday. The staff, and then the staff is going under like a massive retraining, racial bias training.
I don't know how much I buy into the boycott because sometimes I don't think people should because other people are going to suffer. Who whereas that person should definitely suffer. Okay. So anyway, two guys of color.
Oh, here it is.
Go into a Starbucks in Philly and sat down.
So
and apparently they were
yeah.
waiting for some people.
So they said in the recording, a woman is heard saying, "Hi, I have two gentlemen in my cafe that are refusing to make a purchase or leave." She gives the address of the Starbucks store, and the entire call lasts less than 30 seconds. And in the communications between police and dispatch that were also released, someone refers to a group of males inside causing a disturbance, and additional officers are sent. First of all, what's the need for additional officers?
Well,
You're in a Starbucks.
Blacks are very strong.
I mean, they literally handcuffed them.
Yeah, blacks are very strong.
Yeah. Well, from slavery days.
Yeah.
That's why the strongest,
they
were sold for
good
the most,
thighs,
right?
Good calves. I think that's what Jimmy the Greek
Strong
said.
back.
Yeah.
But I mean, they took them out in handcuffs.
So the funny part about it is, first of all, they were
That's
waiting.
nuts.
What they said they were doing is waiting for someone else to come, and then they would order together.
Right.
So some other people were in there, and this is why. See, let me tell you something. Humanity, you can't just broad brush, because there's humanity. I always tell people, I say, if it were not for white people, you would still have slavery, because the 13th, what do you call it, the 13th Amendment, had to be passed in the House of Representatives, which was an all-white body. Okay, so they had to vote for the abolition of slavery.
Right.
We don't focus on that stuff, but the reality is there were some people in there who said, hey,
What's going
what's
on?
going on here?
What's going on?
I haven't ordered anything. Why are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And you know what's funny about situations like that, Kendrick, is when people are bringing the attention to you about this is an injustice, right? Why don't you just at that moment say, you know what, I was wrong, and back off?
Yeah.
But no, they take it to the next level
Yeah.
and handcuff the guys. And by the way, and this is why I tell people all the time, my father was a policeman. He taught me two things when you deal with policemen. Yes, sir. No, sir. I don't know, sir. Okay? Those two guys followed that strategy. Okay? Calm. Nothing. Said nothing. Handcuffs. As opposed to getting into a ruffle. Because at the end of the day, they're going to end up. It's not worth it. Okay? Because someone, I don't know how many policemen they had there, but one of them was ready to pull a gun.
Man, it was like, from the video that I saw,
Yeah.
it was about at least 4 or 5
Yeah.
officers.
If you would make some moves, one of them, 1 out of 5,
Right.
was a puller.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it was, but you got out of 5 of them as a puller.
Man, listen, I was watching on Netflix the other day, Marlon Wayans, his stand-up. Like, I like Marlon Wayans, but I don't particularly. I didn't know what he would have been like in a stand-up.
Yeah, he can be funny.
But anyway, I watched it, and he was surprisingly pretty funny. So his stand-up is called Wokish, and he was talking about, police, all this, the racial things that are going on in the United States. And he was like, right now what needs to happen is, you need to have a white officer paired with a black woman officer, because she can keep him in check. You know what I mean? And I thought that was just hilarious. Rolling up.
Did you also see the thing with Trevor Noah about the thing?
Yeah.
You saw his
I love
about
him.
that. Yeah.
I love. He's
And
just
he's
so
like,
brilliant,
because it's
brilliantly
basic.
funny.
They did a very good thing, and I wish they'd done it in the U.S. where they banned the word.
Yeah.
Okay, they banned the word. The word is illegal.
Is illegal, and you
Okay.
can
Go to jail.
Be prosecuted. Yeah.
So this woman, the word is kafir, right?
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem like a lot to us, but because we didn't grow up with
But
it,
I
right?
don't think they're saying the N word over there, so I don't know if we should say kafir.
No. What I'm saying,
radio.
what I'm saying is, it doesn't say.
I know.
No. Let me tell you the difference.
You think there's
Over there, they know what the N word mean. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Over the world, the whole world knows what the N word means.
Okay, so why
But
did they
because-
use a different word?
Because it's a language. It's a language thing.
Okay.
It's a Afrikaans or something.
guess.
So the reality is, I don't know the word for that in Japanese. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if someone said musalaba,
Right.
Who's your
Okay,
mother?
that doesn't
I
offend
wouldn't
me.
back, Okay?
Okay.
Okay?
I get that. I get
Okay.
it. I get it. I guess.
So we don't feel it because we don't know it.
We don't know it.
Right. And I can guarantee you 85% of the world doesn't know it, okay?
Yeah.
So but the reality is in South Africa,
South Africa.
that's a serious word
Yeah.
to the point where they ban it. Okay?
Yep.
And this woman went to jail.
Yeah, we talked
3
about
years.
that. Yeah.
And Trevor Noah just
For
simply
saying it
said,
for
listen,
like
man,
48 times.
it's like, the people are complaining that, it's the country's falling apart because they're putting people in jail for saying the K word and it's the freedom of speech. And it's like, no. You don't have to go to jail.
Right.
Just don't say it. Don't be a racist.
Right.
You know?
Say-
You
Right,
want to be
that's
a
what
racist?
He's like, stop being racist. Just stop being racist.
Just stop.
That's it.
Or be racist at home. You want to say, go, K word, before you go out.
But you don't say that word 50 times to a police officer.
48,
you
you
just don't
said
do it.
they stopped the police, say, you know what, we ain't gonna let you get to 50.
Right.
Okay.
You know?
So it's just. And by the way, it's interesting because when I listened to him, I was thinking about other stuff that we do, right? So you have rules, okay, and you don't want to follow those rules, and then when someone calls you on that rule, you get upset. Well, did you really have to do that?
Right.
Did you have to stand in the middle of the road and urinate? I mean, it's, is that something you feel compelled to do? You know it's against the law.
Something they're saying that you cannot do it.
Well, you know you shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
Well,
You have those type of people who just they're
well,
nuts.
they're nuts. I mean, we got the nuts people, like fine, but I'm not talking about the nuts people.
No,
I'm
not
talking
the nuts
about
people that you're just not gonna.
Well, then go to jail.
Right.
And that's why
And people are willing to do that.
This is why you have to have like in Singapore, right? You have to. I love that whole concept.
With no gum. No.
It's just discipline, okay? The gum thing might be a little far-fetched, but you know what? Guess what? You work with DNP.
Yes. And
What's
I
on the
see
sidewalks?
gum.
Nothing but gum.
And it is
Black,
hard
hard gum.
You cannot get that off.
Okay? So that's why they don't have it, because they don't
Yeah.
want to see that on the road. You want to have
I
gum,
agree.
eat it home.
Yeah.
They have rules, like they have a rule like, okay, look at, if you get caught with X amount of dope, drugs, we're going to kill you. It's a death penalty. That's the rule. That's okay? Now, I don't agree with it, right? But here's the deal, what I agree with. Don't cry, please don't kill me, if you decide, you know what? I think I could sneak some in. You know what I mean? I think, I know the rule. I know they have it on the plane and they warn you. You have a chance to do it down the toilet. But I think that I could just probably get this 2 kilos of heroin in because I don't know if they can catch me. And it's going to weigh so much to me. And then when they step off the plane and they catch you, And you go, well,
Well,
is there an exception? It's like a waiver.
no, sweet girl. No baby cakes.
Like, you remember the fellow who got the lashes? Something Ray.
When
He sprayed graffiti. Y'all don't remember this case? He sprayed graffiti on a car.
Mm-hmm.
And he was to get something like, I don't know, 14 lashes of
That's a lot
the cane.
for graffiti on a car.
No, but see, once again,
It's illegal.
I don't know if you don't know
get
this,
it,
right? But your hand don't just go like this involuntarily. Okay?
No, but 14
Oh, no, hold
lashes.
on. It's okay, so low.
Oh my God, that's a bit much.
Well, I think they negotiate down to 9. But
Okay.
you know what? He don't even want to go in a paint store no more.
He would.
He in the paint. He deal with
No.
tile now. Tile the whole wall. Okay? So this is the thing. You don't have to, and as a result, they have an orderly, low crime, highly progressive society
Yeah.
because we live by rules. And
You
if
just
you
have some people who are just very, very disciplined too,
who are
Like, I'm just saying, different cultures that are,
we're not disciplined.
I don't, well, I was
Yeah.
gonna say that.
We saw the fellow across the street stolen.
Oh, oh my gosh.
We witnessed that,
With the
Ken.
plastic bag.
We witnessed that
Yeah,
right
I-
across the street.
I couldn't stop looking. I was like, what
Now you see,
am I watching?
I have a feeling in Singapore he would have vanished for life.
What am I watching?
What are you doing? Are you out of your mind? I mean, it's
and then
crazy.
proceeded to take the plastic bag and I think wipe it on the sidewalk. Because guess what? He need that later.
It's nuts.
Go rinse in the sea or something.
No, just-
Oh, come on, give me a break.
What's that?
Go rinse in the ocean, man. Do something.
But it's crazy. And so until we get, I'm afraid that because
We're not disciplined at all.
I'm afraid that we're never going to be disciplined because it's too small. And I know that the rule is no chewing gum, but Kendrick works with me at
That's
the
my
station,
boy, man.
so I can't really cane him.
We street.
So could I do maybe tell him off? Can I just tell him off?
No,
You shouldn't have done that.
Hey, what's your favorite phrase? We can make it.
We can make it.
Y'all ain't gonna make it.
Y'all ain't gonna make it.
Y'all
Okay?
ain't gonna make it.
Because what has to happen is Kendrick should be caned.
Yeah.
Because then he'll know, and everyone know. You know what? If you can chew gum, you better do it like a ventriloquist. Don't let him see your mouth move.
Oh boy.
You
No.
better do it like a ventriloquist, boy,
No,
Kendrick.
seriously, I always admire you see these other countries, and some of them, you can't help but to admire just because I
Because
mean
it's
they
clean.
got their stuff together.
See, here's what I say all the time. So, and we see it. You can go, and I'm not picking anything, any particular, but let's say you go to PI, okay? You see how it's kept. There's no paper.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, there's only 1 or 2 guys picking up paper, and they only picking up every day. They only picking up about 5 paper a day.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reality is, it's possible. Okay, because guess what? Bahamians are not throwing paper down over there.
No.
Okay? And let me just also say this. There's no punitive attachment. If you throw the paper, it's not like you're going to be caned. But they just have an appreciation for this as a clean space.
Yeah.
So the question is, why can't we do that in our own communities, on our homes, in our and I have to say,
And
and I
we
want
have
to
to
just
be
say, Charlotte, we
citizens.
don't give credit where credit is due. I want to say, and we had Shannon Don on, didn't we? Yeah, Shannon Don Cartwright.
I wasn't.
Yeah, we had him on. Yeah, I want to say, we want to give credit to the fact that you are seeing
I've heard good
a
things
lot of,
about.
but you're seeing it. It's
Yeah.
visible, right?
He's
You can
doing a
see.
great
Now,
job.
there's a lot to do
Yeah.
because you still got plenty nasty people.
But he.
Okay, but at least you're seeing the effort made. The people on the street, you see them orange plastic bag.
Yeah.
By the way, your road paved, but they dig that up again. Eh?
Listen.
What's
man,
wrong with them?
Well,